But even if somebody has a 50 to 100, we're really going to take the nomination away from them in Milwaukee? I'm not sure the party recovers that for decades.
Last night was the Nevada Democratic debate, and I got to focus on this one moment. This one moment near the end of the debate that I think was the most enlightening out of anything else that happened. Watch.
We are less than 2 weeks away from a national primary. And I want to ask all of you this simple question. There's a very good chance none of you are going to have enough delegates to the Democratic National Convention to clinch this nomination. Okay? If that happens, I want all of your opinions on this. Should the person with the most delegates at the end of this primary season be the nominee, even if they are short of a majority? Senator Sanders, I'm going to let you go last here because I know your view on this. So instead, I will start with you, Mayor Bloomberg.
Whatever the rules of the Democratic Party are, they should be followed. And if they have a process, which I believe they do,
I'm trying to do
so
this
that
yes or no to make it fast.
everybody can.
So you want the convention to work its will?
Yes.
Senator Warren.
But a convention working its will means that people have the delegates that are pledged to them, and they keep those delegates until you come to the convention. All of the people.
All righty. Vice President Biden?
Play by the rules.
Yes or no? Leading person with the delegates, should they be the nominee or not?
No, let the process work its way out.
Mayor Buttigieg?
Not necessarily, not to listen
Senator Klobuchar?
Let the process work.
Senator Sanders?
Well, the process includes 500 superdelegates on the second ballot. So I think that the will of the people should prevail. Yes.
Thank you, guys.
The most votes should become the nominee.
5 no's and a yes.
All right. This tells you pretty much everything you need to know about all these candidates. Everybody on stage, except Bernie Sanders, advocated for overturning the will of the people at the convention. This is not democracy. So if Bernie Sanders hits the convention, but doesn't have a majority of delegates, but has a plurality, so he still has the most, but he doesn't have over half of them, then the other candidates here are saying, well, we should just forget the fact that Bernie Sanders has the most delegates and we should work against him, or at least open up the opportunity to work against him to pick another nominee, allow the party elites to choose the nominee. That would destroy the party. And I'm going to get to some reactions from Twitter later that go to that effect. But also, it also reveals something else, that the other candidates on stage are beginning to acknowledge publicly that they are not going to be the ones with the most delegates, with the most votes at the convention. So watch Chris Matthews from MSNBC, his take on this.
But there's only one candidate there who believes he's going to have the most delegates going into Milwaukee. And we know it was. He was the guy that said that person should be the winner. Everybody else said tonight, I will not have the most delegates. They all made it official. They were not going to give the win to the guy or the person with the most delegates. That was so telling tonight. Today, it was an acknowledgement that Bernie is the winner, not the winner so far in this whole fight. And he may be the winner all the way. And I think they think so.
So Chris Matthews is exactly right. Now, usually his political analysis of how people feel is completely off, but his analysis of how politicians act, at least in the case of these politicians, it's exactly on. He knows. I mean, and it's obvious to anybody. No other candidate on stage would be arguing against the will of the people if they thought that they would have the most votes and the most delegates by the end of this primary. So this was an acknowledgement of all the other candidates that they are not going to have the most votes. I mean, this is both the clip, the first clip I showed you, it is both very, I don't know, disappointing, very infuriating. Yeah, not disappointing, definitely infuriating. But also very positive in a different sense, because they're realizing that Bernie Sanders is going to win the nomination. They're acknowledging that Bernie Sanders is going to have the most votes, the most delegates at the convention. And right now, their only hope is to overturn that at the convention with party elites. And if they do that, it will destroy the Democratic Party. I'm telling you right now, and this isn't just me. This is other podcasters I know, other progressives online, other people that have much larger audiences than I do. we absolutely will not support the Democratic nominee if they steal the convention away from the person that has the most delegates, the most votes by the convention. I'm telling you right now, that's how it's going to be. So if Bernie Sanders hits the convention with the most votes, with the most delegates, and they try and take it from him, I'm focusing on activism. I'm focusing on other things, and I'm going to actively tell people not to vote. That's what's going to happen. Now, before I get to, again, some responses from Twitter, I want to show you what MSNBC's Chris Hayes, along with Obama's 2008 campaign manager, David Plouffe, said about this. Because you would assume, and I think it's the correct assumption most of the time, that cable news would be representing the interests of corporate and party elites and would be totally for stealing the convention away from Bernie Sanders. But even they know, at least in this case, Chris Hayes and David Plouffe know that if they were to do that, that it would destroy the party and that Trump would win. So watch their take on this.
Yeah, it's possible that we're going to have somebody who doesn't have a majority of the pledged delegates. I believe that whoever is the plurality leader, unless literally it's a delegate or two, right. But even if somebody has a 50 to 100, we're really going to take the nomination away from them in Milwaukee? I'm not sure the party recovers that for decades.
I completely agree with that, right? That, like, if you go into the convention with a plurality lead, the idea of that convention being like, sorry, like,
thanks for playing.
Yeah, thanks for playing. We're just going to.
And the party bosses have decided the person who got the most delegates is now not going to be the nominee. Like, parties don't recover from that for a long time.
He's exactly right. They're both right. And this actually gives me a little hope that it's not going to happen, that they're not going to steal the nomination. Because there is at least some awareness that it would destroy the party. I've also seen other people on cable news mention this. So they know that if they steal the convention away from the candidate that gets the most votes and the most delegates, that the party's done. So look, they may try. They may try. And if they're going to play with fire, they're going to get burned. I want to show you some responses here on Twitter. This from journalist Walker Bregman. No joke, though. If Bernie Sanders is leading in pledged delegates and votes by the convention and superdelegates swing the nomination to someone else, it will be the end of the Democratic Party as an American political institution. This from former 2020 candidate Marianne Williamson. The Democratic Party should be on notice. If you even think about using superdelegates to take the nomination from someone who has the plurality of delegates going into Milwaukee, we the people will not take it lying down. This from journalist Sam Adler-Bell of The Intercept and other publications. If Bernie enters the convention with a plurality of delegates and leaves without the nomination, it will destroy the party, alienate a generation of Democrats, and hand another 4 years to Trump. This from journalist and writer Corey Robin. So Bernie only gets, say, 38% of the vote going into the convention. He lacks political credibility and democratic appeal, say his critics. So let's have the convention elites choose a candidate who only got 30% of the vote. Genius. And podcaster Benjamin Dixon. It's almost like immediately after everyone realized that Bloomberg was an incompetent overlord, they collectively decided to go to Plan C to stop Sanders. Contested convention. Same rules apply. You steal democracy from us, we steal your power from you by refusing to vote. There it is. That's what will happen if the nomination is taken away at the convention. You have to go with the will of the people, or democracy's dead, the party's dead, Trump wins 4 more years, and who knows how long he actually stays president. Now, there is a petition that I saw shared by Megan Day of Jacobin. This petition's on the Action Network. I will link to it below the video. It's basically a petition saying that, you know, whoever wins the most votes, has the most delegates at the convention, that they should be the party's nominee. Now, I know, look, petitions aren't going to solve world problems, but it's something. It's something to do right now as we're all stewing in anger here. Just at the awareness that people, that candidates on stage think it's perfectly normal, perfectly okay to overturn the will of the people and give the nomination to somebody else. How would you even explain that? Like, I think Corey Robin put it perfectly. You have a candidate that gets, say, 38%, 40% of the vote, and someone else gets 30%. What's your argument for saying that the person at 30% has or should be the nominee when the person at 40% got more votes? Like, what is the actual argument here? At this point, what's the point of electoral politics? What's the point of voting if party elites are going to overturn the will of the people? So this is why all hands on deck, whether it's door knocking, phone banking, talking with friends and family, make sure, and when you go out to voter caucus, bring people with you that don't normally vote. That is also key to all of this, is engage people, bring people into the process that normally are disengaged from politics, because that is how we will win. That is how this movement wins, and that is how you prevent any sort of contested convention from happening in the summer.